tub of Indian food, which I absolutely love. I'm going to do organic shrimps and a lentil dish that is South Indian, and I'm going to serve it with steamed rice. I'm going to do a close-up as to what I'm putting in there. Actually, I'll take pictures and post it on there. First up, I take 2 cups of rice, jasmine rice. I'm going to rinse it in water and drain out a lot of this cloudy water, and then I'm going to put it in my rice cooker, which I have right here. I'm going to set it to start, and it's very simple. Here's my 2 cups of washed rice. I'm going to put it right into my rice cooker like that. And then I'm going to take 2 cups of cold water, just 2 cups from the tap. Salt for the rice, not a lot, just a little pinch. And I put a little drop of oil, any oil what you want. I'm using an organic grapeseed oil, just a little drop, like about a teaspoon, just so the rice doesn't stick and it's nice and fluffy. Now I want to give my rice some color, so I'm going to use a little bit of turmeric powder, about a 1/4 teaspoon. This gives the rice a really pretty color. And turmeric is really good for you, so that's a good way of using it. I give it a quick stir, like that, and I set it to go. Actually, I'm going to add just a little more turmeric because I want it to be a little brighter colored, orange colored. Just a little bit more, so a little more than a 1/4 teaspoon, but closer to 1/4 than anything else. Close it, and it's on white rice. Hit start. Oops, I guess it helps to plug in. Now for my lentils, I get another little bowl, and I have 1 cup of lentils, the orange colored lentils. Same thing, I'm going to wash it like I did the rice, and I'm going to keep it ready to cook. Now I'm into my lentils. First up, I always light a scented candle, because especially when you cook Indian food, the house smells. So that smells good. I'm going to turn my vent on. I'm going to put my hair up in a scrunchie because I don't need any of the hair going into the food. There you go. Turning my stove on. My lentils are washed, like so. So that's 1 cup of lentils, and I'm going to use 1 cup of... I'm just getting all the leftover lentils out of that bowl. Don't want to waste anything. I'm going to put 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Turn on my stove. For the lentils, you will need 1 onion, and I'm going to dice it up small. 4 cloves of garlic and 1 red chili. I'm going to need 2 tomatoes, this size, 2 tomatoes, which I'm going to dice up and put into my pan that's cooking on the stove right now. You'll need turmeric, caraway seeds, mustard seeds, red chili, and curry leaves. And I'm going to show you how to put this all together. I'm going to prep everything, and then I'm going to be back. Okay, so here we go. I'm adding my 2 tomatoes to the lentils, and you're going to let it boil up on here. Just watch it that it doesn't burn. Put your, as soon as it comes to a boil, turn it down, let it cook, and I'm going to cover it with a lid. I'm going to put about 1/2 teaspoon of salt in there and let it cook slowly. And this is going to be blended at the end, so the tomatoes, you can just cut it any old way and put it in. I have diced up my garlic into thin slices. This is for the lentils. And the chili into thin little pieces. And I'm going to put it aside in this bowl because I'm going to fry it up with an onion, and I'm going to show you how. I've got my onion ready. I'm going to dice it in half and then into little pieces. So half. And another way to do it is, if you don't go all the way through, you just kind of do this, slice it this way, and then you put it down, and this part is not sliced all the way through, so you just kind of go and do it this way. And then when you slice it, you get nice little dices. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's all going to get fried up. I'm just doing it really quick. My lentils is starting to cook, so I'm going to take a half a teaspoon of the turmeric powder and put it on top. And I'm going to take 1 dried red chili, and I'm just going to break it up into 3 or 4 pieces and just throw it on top. Give it a little stir. It's still a little high, my stove, so I'm going to turn it down really low. I'm actually going to move it to the back burner because I'm going to get it out of the way so I can start prepping. I'm turning it down. I'm going to put the lid on top and just let it cook there. I have greased my pan for cooking my shrimps. I sprayed it with Pam. I'm going to give it a splash of grapeseed oil because the cooking temperature is really high and you need the high temperature to fry the onions and the seeds and things. And I'm going to show that to you as I go. I'm now moving on to prepping for my shrimps. First up, I'm using a bag of organic shrimps. They're the really large ones. So I'm going to open it up and put them in this bowl when they're clean, and I'll show you from there on how I do it. Okay, so here we are onto the shrimp. I put them in here. They've already been cleaned, but I'm absolutely a clean freak, and I will double check to make sure all the veins are out. You slice it down here, and you also slice it down in here to make sure that the vein is out, which I'm going to do now. And then I'm going to slice the shrimp into half, so it looks like 2 shrimps versus 1, because there's just 2. I've decided to cut them right in half like that. And if you look here, there's a vein that they leave in. Make sure you get it out because that's disgusting. And then I pull off the tail because I just want it to be really clean. Some people save the tails to make soup with, and you could do that, or like the whole shell. That's a different recipe. I can do that too, but I'm not doing it right now. I take out that little vein, so make sure you get that, and then the shrimp is in too. This step is very important. I'm going to take a cup of cold water, put it into here, and I'm going to add another half a teaspoon of the turmeric powder. I know I'm doing this, but trust me, it's half a teaspoon. You're going to give it a nice little stir in there, and you're going to put the clean shrimp in there to soak while you prep the rest of the food. I'm just going to use my knife to just do it. And as soon as I'm finished with my shrimp, I'm just going to take them and drop them in. Where's my clean one? That's a clean one. So I'll just drop it in and let it soak. Okay, so now we're prepping to do the shrimps. I normally would use 1 large onion, but I don't have a large one, so I'm going to use a small 1 1/2. So 1 1/2 of these, and 1 tomato. You need some pepper, some chili, which I have on the other side as well, some tamarind sauce. I'll link where you can get all of this. Tamarind is like a long bean that grows in the south of India, and it's very sour. I think it grows in the Philippines and Malaysia and stuff like that as well. But they get the pulp and they put it into a jar, which is so much easier to cook with. And it gives it this sweet, sour, hot taste when you make the dish. I mean, you add the sugar and the spice as well. And then you need a bit of ginger, 4 cloves of garlic, and 1 red chili because I don't want to make it too spicy. I'm going to dice everything as I did for the previous one. Slice the garlic really thin and the ginger. And I'm going to prep it, and I'll show you how I prep. First thing for the lentils, you take the caraway seed, and you need about half a teaspoon, and you're going to broil it in a saucepan like that. Just half a teaspoon is perfect. What the broiling does, you kind of do it in a dry pan and you kind of toast it. That's what you do. And once it's toasted, you really have to watch that as well, in case it burns, because I have it on high. And when it's done, I'm going to put it aside in a little square white bowl, like that, and set it aside for cooking my lentils. My lentils is steaming away over there, and my stove is really low so it won't burn. It's just cooking in its own water, basically. This I've really got to watch because I don't want it to burn. I'm just toasting it. The smell is fantastic. When you smell it toasting, it brings out like the natural oils, I guess. This goes on top of my lentils dish at the end. So I'm just keeping it ready. That's ready. You don't want it to burn. And I'm going to put it in this little dish and set aside for the end. So in my pan, I'm going to add a splash, I'm going to add a splash of grapeseed oil, again, because it's good for frying. The heating temperature goes really hot and it fries really well. So I'm turning on my stove and I'm really going to watch this now. I'm going to put in about about a little less than half a teaspoon of mustard seeds in that oil. I'm going to let it toast, and when it starts toasting, it starts popping. It starts popping all over the stove, so you really have to watch it. It's bubbling up at the moment. And then I'm going to put my ginger and garlic and the little chili. I mean, not ginger, sorry, just garlic. And I'm just going to give it a little fry. You're going to put it not too high because you don't want it to brown. This dish is so delicious and it's so easy to make, the lentils. So when it gets a little bit of a fry, you're going to add the onions. I'm going to add all of them to that. We're going to fry it up. I'm going to turn my heat up a bit now and fry them up. If you find you want a little bit more oil, you can add a little more oil. I'm just very keen on cooking low fat for my children and me, so I try not to add extra oil, keep it on the low. My onions are starting to get a little transparent and a little bit caramelized, so that means it's starting to get ready to be added to my lentils. You also need to get a little blender, or you can put it in your mixer or whatever to mush up the dal and make it smooth. I'm going to grab my blender. This is my handheld, it's easy. It's by Cuisinart, and you just put it into the lentils and you mash it up. So right now my lentils are done. I'm just going to, this is the consistency, it's kind of watery, but I'm going to blend it to make all of this smooth. I'm going to add my onions to it at the end. It's almost ready, so I'm just going to use the same spoon to give it a little quick stir. I'm going to turn it down really low because I don't want it to burn while I blend this up. And here we go. I'm just going to blend it up so it's like a nice puree. It's really hot, so be careful. I have made the lentils a little bit watery today because I wanted to go with the rice to soften the rice a bit, because my shrimps are not going to be that wet. My onions are ready, so I'm going to switch stoves. I'm going to put that back on here. I'm going to add my onions and garlic and chili to my lentils. I'm going to turn up the heat, give it a stir. I'm going to add my toasted caraway seeds to the top. And I'm going to add a handful of cilantro that I'm going to chop. What I forgot to tell you was that I used these curry leaves in the beginning with the onion. I forgot to tell you that I added it, but I fry that up with my onion, and there's 2 little ones in there. And my lentils are ready. I'm just going to add the garnish, and it's all ready to go. So I take about this much cilantro. I'm going to bend it like that. Try not to chop it too much, because then it gets all mushy. So you kind of just want to do it once and kind of tiny, so just to garnish the top. I think this will be about 2 tablespoons of cilantro. And if you don't like it, you don't have to put it in, but this is what the South Indians do. I was very lucky. My nanny growing up taught me all these recipes, and I was smart. I bought a little journal, and in my book I wrote all the recipes that my mom taught me and my nanny growing up. So I'm going to actually put it in this bowl. My rice is ready, it's beeping. So it's about 2 big tablespoons full of cilantro. And again, you don't have to put this in if you don't want to. It goes with my recipe, so I'm going to do it right now. And here we go. Actually, you can just use 1 tablespoon is fine for that amount. Give it a stir, and it's all done. It's a little runny, but I wanted it this way. If you don't want it runny, then put a little less water when you're cooking it. You can always add. Same thing for the shrimp. I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did, like that, like 2 little slices. This is my recipe book that I have, that I've made notes in, and I put all my savory stuff in here. My shrimp curry that I'm going to make, it's a Kerala shrimp, which is from the west coast of India. It's my cousin's recipe, and I've written it down, my take on it. I've taken 2 pounds of the fresh shrimps, which I showed you earlier, that I've got in a bowl with the turmeric soaking, as so. I'll leave it there. Having a glass of Tignanello because I feel like a glass of wine right now. And I'm going to do the sliced ginger. I've done the garlic. The ginger, I'm taking about 1.5 inches piece, and I'm going to slice it thin, just exactly like the garlic. And there's the chili in there sliced as well. I'm going to put the cilantro is all ready to go. I've done the cilantro. I've chopped up the 2 little onions right there. I prep everything, keep it organized, so that way it's easy to throw everything in because shrimp cooks really fast. So for the tomato, I'm going to put it in this bowl. I'm going to slice it in half, and I'm going to get rid of all the seeds in here because it's mushy and it makes the curry mushy. So I'm going to scoop it out as is in the sink, just like that. And I'm going to dice up my tomato as small as I can. See all this gooey stuff? I'm just going to get rid of. And you can dice it any way you like, whatever you're comfortable with. I just do it that way. And then I can go in and dice it smaller. I get rid of that little green piece, and then I just dice them up. It doesn't have to be perfect because it all gets mushed in into the curry. Small little neat squares. I'm going to slice up my ginger like that, as thin as I can. It's about 1.5 inches piece. It's a very young ginger because normally they're very thick. And then I'm just going to dice them into little strips like that. I have a little bit of the skin on there, it doesn't matter because it adds to the flavor, just like that. As you can see, I have the similar amount of ginger and garlic. I'm just going to add it all together with my 1 chili that I sliced. You can add 2 if you like, but I'm going to go lower than higher. As it's Sunday night, I'm going to whip up a pound cake, which was my mother's recipe. It's so easy to make. Everything you measure is a pound. So first up, I take a baking bread, I guess a bread pan, a rectangular pan, and I spray it again with the baking pan, which has flour in it. So when you spray the pan, you can see how white it is, and this doesn't let the cake coat to the pan. You have to spray it nicely. I just do it over the sink and keep it ready. You'll need a baking rack, and you'll need a pin to check to see if it's baked. I'm going to do the measurements now for the cake, and I will show you. The shrimps are all ready to go, so I will do that right before I'm ready to call the kids because it cooks so quickly. First up, I take a piece of wax paper because I'm going to measure my flour onto here, and from there it's easy to go. First up, I have a large Pyrex dish that I'm going to beat the eggs in here with the butter. I'm using 1 stick of butter, which is equivalent to half a cup or 125 milliliters. I've weighed it out, and that has to equal the amount of 2 eggs. So this is my little weights scale. I got it from Joseph's in England, but they sell it everywhere. So it's on 0, and I'm going to measure my eggs. So it's 122. So I think that's in pounds. No, sorry, milliliters. So I'm just putting them here. So my butter is the same amount weight as that, 122. So I'm going to get my flour and my sugar. It has to be the same. First up, I'm using my flour, which is the King Arthur, and I just found out they're not carrying it anymore. So it's just all-purpose flour for baking. It's on 0, so you're going to get 122 of that. Add the same amount of sugar. I'm doing a little bit less, and it's organic white sugar. I don't really like using a lot of sugar, but this recipe tastes the best with that. So I'm going to keep with it. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of baking soda, which I'm going to mix in with my flour, and half a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to grab half a teaspoon, a little less than half a teaspoon of salt, because I don't like a lot of salt, and I'm just going to mix it in here. I'm just going to mix it in as is. You can sift it, which is the better way to go, but I'm in a bit of a rush because I'm doing Sunday night dinner for the boys, and I'm just rushing. I'm going to turn my oven on to 350 and let it preheat while I whip all of this up. I'll take my stick of butter, and I'm going to blend the sugar with the butter, and I'm going to cream it up. So we're done with this. Here we go. So I've got my butter and the sugar together. I'm going to turn on my little handheld blender, which I find so easy. It's by KitchenAid. And I just whip up the butter. It's at room temperature, which I've left out from this morning. I decided I'll just do dessert for them as well because it's Sunday night dinner. So I just kind of whip it up. I'm blending the butter and the sugar together till it becomes like a creamy consistency, about 2 minutes. Like so. I'm going to add the eggs in, 2 eggs. I'm going to whip it up. This recipe is so easy and it is delicious. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence. It's a nice generous pour. And I'm going to give it a little whisk. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the flour and incorporate it with my batter. I'm going to do it like this so it's easy. You just add a little bit and you blend. Add a little bit and blend. And I just incorporate this. It's so easy, and I'm telling you, it is perfect to serve with coffee or tea, or as dessert. You can put a blob of ice cream on there, or just as is. My kids like it as it is. And we are all done. Look at the consistency. I hope you can see it. It's all done. Into my pan. I'm not a chef. This is just something I really enjoy doing, so I hope you guys get some inspiration from it. My children always say, and even their friends, please, no, even if nobody likes your videos, keep posting them, because when we go to university, we know we can make your food at our residency, which is so cute. This cake reminds me of my childhood. My mother would make it for us all the time. It was just so delicious. And into the oven for 350, just as is. I set my timer for 40 minutes. I've got my little pin to check to see if it's ready, all set aside. My rice is ready. Look how pretty it looks. I take a fork very carefully and give it a fluff up, because this is a non-stick pan. I don't want it to scratch it. Oops. And we're all ready to serve it with the rice, but it looks so pretty and it smells so good. On to my shrimps. I put a dash of oil in there, the grapeseed oil, just like that. And then I'm gonna make sure it's nice and hot because I'm gonna fry my curry leaves, which I was telling you about earlier, about 1, 2, 3, 4 curry leaves. You can buy them fresh or you can buy them dry. I normally buy them and put them in containers and I label them so for easy use. I hope you can see it. I'm going to give my shrimps a nice little stir in that water, and you save that water, don't throw it out. So while this is cooking, I'm going to go grab my onions. It's pretty hot. I'm going to take half of my chopped onions and I'm going to put it in this pan and give it a good fry. I'm saving half. I'm going to add my ginger and garlic and the chili. And I'm going to fry this down, and you're going to watch it because it's on high. You really have to watch it because you don't want it to get brown. I'm making it kind of caramelizing it. But it's on high, so I really have to watch it. It's starting to go a little brown. Turn it down if you have to, but do not burn it. It's kind of caramelized now. I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper because I don't want it too spicy. It's a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. I'm going to add about a 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. Oops. You can add red chili too if you want, but I'm not. I'm going to add a pinch of sugar. I'm using organic brown sugar, about 1/2 teaspoon. And I'm going to add my tomatoes, my 1 tomato. Fry it up. The smell is just heavenly. You got to watch that, and you have to really fry it down. With Indian food, I find you've got to really fry the masalas, but with like Jamaican or Bahamian, they don't really fry the masalas as much. That's just one tip that I know with Indian food. It's starting to stick to the pan a bit, so you can go back into this curry water, like the turmeric water, and put a teaspoon in there to get it to to deglaze the pan. Add another little bit, because I want to get all that stickiness off the pan and just fry up these tomatoes and the onions. See how the tomatoes have become kind of mushy? I don't know if you can see that. But now I'm going to add my tamarind paste. I like using a knife with it because it's easy to dig it out and swipe it. About a teaspoon, and this you can taste it to see how much you like. I'm going to use about a teaspoon of this black paste, and I like putting it in here because it slips down in there. With a teaspoon it's hard to get it off. So I'm going to incorporate that with my tomato paste. The sugar that you put in there too helps with caramelizing the onions quicker. I'm going to add a little bit of that turmeric water in there. So I want to make this into a paste. I want to eat this right now. See how it all blends in together and it becomes kind of black. So you've got the heat from the chili and the pepper. You've got the salty or the sour from the tamarind, and I put a little bit of that sugar earlier, and that's the sweet. So this dish, you can always add in a little bit more sweet or less sweet depending on your taste buds, but this is how I like serving it. Now that paste is ready, so now I'm going to scoop out my shrimps and put it in as is. Don't put the water in, just save it. You could even do this early in the morning and let the shrimps soak in this water. All of the shrimps are in. And I'm going to give it on high, a good stir, and incorporate that. I'm going to throw in my remaining chili, onions. because I want a little bit of crunchiness in there. And it's going to cook in that. If you want to make it a little more water, you can add some of that water, but I think I like the consistency as is because my lentils are kind of watery to add to the dish. And I'll cook this for about 3 minutes and then the shrimp should be done. My cake is almost done, and in between while I was doing that, I cut up a bowl full of berries. There's raspberries, strawberries and blueberries. I normally do this for breakfast on top of yogurt or on top of oatmeal for the kids. This is what I serve the kids for breakfast. It's on yogurt and I put almond slivers on it, chia and flax seeds. Because it's from the ocean, these shrimps, they tend to be a little salty to start with, so I add just a little bit of salt to taste. I'm doing about 1/4 teaspoon. Again, you can add more if you feel you need it a little more salty, but you rather go less than more. My shrimps are cooked. I'm going to not add any more of that water because it's pretty watery right now, and I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of the cilantro. Give it a stir in, and we're done. There's my tamarind shrimp. I'm just plating my dinner now. There's 3 of us. Initially there was only 2. So here's my yellow rice, which looks so pretty. I hope you can see it. The yellow rice. Who's going first? And this is my lentils, which I'm going to put on the side. And my shrimps. And I'm going to serve it with a little bit of mango chutney. You can get this from any grocery store. I even make this recipe. It's a little bit time consuming, but when the mangoes are in season, I can make it. Here's dinner. Lentils, shrimps, and turmeric rice with mango chutney. Shrimp curry. And it's plated with my turmeric rice and mango chutney. Cake is done. I've let it cool for 10 minutes and I've flipped it over now onto this wire rack, and it should come out. It's a little bit hot, or as my dad used to say, heavy. Just want to drop it. Whoops. There's my cake. And I'll let it cool there a little bit more. And when it's ready, I'll flip it onto that little plate and serve it. It's really hot. So, what did you think of my dinner tonight?
It was very good. I think this was my favorite one this week.
And you?
Very nice.
What, are you doing borat again?